Hello everyone, this is Sumit. So today I'll be discussing a few patterns of questions for MA entrance examination, particularly for some premium institutes, I would say, like JNU. Okay, so let's see what are the universities or institutions you are preparing for, and what kind of university entrance exams will be catered by these questions papers or these patterns of questions, I would say. राइट ये कौन सा यूनिवर्सिटी आप ऑब्वियसली क्रैक कर सकते हो ऐसे क्वेश्चन को सॉल्व करते। सो ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है, जैसे जेएनयू हो गया, इफ्लू हो गया, उसके बाद एचसीयू हो गया, एंड देन जामिया, राइट। सो डीयू, that is also very important. BHU, I would say. Okay, there are slight differences, but obviously we have to follow a certain pattern or different kinds of question papers also altogether. But certainly we need to follow a course structure. So for that thing, EXAMVAT is there. So you can certainly join, like, subscribe, whatever you feel like. But let us see today a few questions. So you will also be familiar with the questions that you will need to prepare for the entrance examination, right? So let us first see the question. Okay, so this is the first question. Okay, let us carefully understand the question and let us try to solve. Okay, so the first question is like, which of the following is true about Longinus? So Longinus is a person who has written on Sublime. Now, if you have read on Sublime, even if you haven't, पढ़े हो नहीं पढ़े हो, doesn't matter, but you need to know about on Sublime a little bit. So obviously this question will help you understand the basic things about on Sublime, which is very important for your entrance. So the first one, like Aristotle and Horace, he concentrates on single elements of text. Then we do not need to take account of the intellect in our discussions of the Sublime. The third point equally emphasizes author, reader, and text in his discussion of the Sublime. And number 4, following Plato, he moves exclusively within the indigenous Greek literary tradition, right? So the correct answer would be number 1. Why? Let us check. This is correct because, so sorry, my bad. The correct option would be number 3. Okay. So yeah, even I was confused why I'm just picking the option 1. So why 3? Because he equally emphasizes the author, reader, text in his discussion on the Sublime. Understand one thing in the first century CE, that is like a very ancient age. So where author, reader, and obviously the text, all these 3 things are given equal importance. In the new Aristotelian period, particularly in the new critical period, the text is given that amount of importance and the idea of authorship is discarded that way. Okay, the reader is only oriented culturally. So that is the thing you can also understand from this question. You can transact from first century CE to even 20th century, right? So what is the probable explanation? That emphasizing the author possesses a great mind and a great soul, the work itself, the text. So there is a relation between the author and the text, obviously, that has been emphasized on, and the reader's response also, how the readers respond, because it also was important that moment, okay, who were the readers, व्हाट वाज देयर रिस्पांस, कि रीडर कौन है, उन लोगों का रिस्पांस कैसा था। ठीक है, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है ऑब्वियसली। सो इसके चलते हम क्या देख सकते हैं, और व्हाट वी कैन अंडरस्टैंड फ्रॉम दिस क्वेश्चन, दैट वी नीड टू स्टडी लॉन्जिनस, वी नीड टू स्टडी एरिस्टोटल, okay, Aristotle's famous poetics, then we need to study Plato, a few chapter of Republic, okay, and obviously Horace also, because when you are accepting the questions on literary criticism from the very ancient age, the primordial period, so Horace, Aristotle, Plato and Longinus. They are very important. Horace Ars Poetica, right? So you need to know a little bit of this. एक आंसर के एक क्वेश्चन से ऑब्वियसली आप लोगों को क्लियर हो जाता है क्या पढ़ना है, क्या देख के जाना है. यू आर नॉट एक्सपेक्टेड टू नो एवरीथिंग, बट यू नीड टू टच, you need to simply cover a little bit. You need to know about this a little bit. Let us move on to the next question, question number 2. In his An Apology for Poetry, Sir Philip Sidney, okay, so argues, number 1, argues that by moving the mind, poetry, like philosophy, is a teacher of virtue. Number 2, values history over poetry, that contains that the chief passage of base histories are essentially poetry. Number 3, maintains that far from counterfeiting or figuring forth, poetry is mimesis, that means nakal kind of, or representing, that means किसी चीज को प्रदर्शन मतलब दिखाना. And number 4, asserts that by engaging the reader's emotion, poets blend truth with symbolism, right? What should be the correct answer? Obviously correct answer would be number 4. So the correct answer is basically number 4, right? So that is the correct answer. Now why? Let us take a look why this should be the correct answer. Throughout An Apology for Poetry, Sidney stalwartly defends poetry against those who would view it as a mindless or immortal activity. That means it is somehow connected with truth, it is somehow connected with the reader's emotion, connected with the idea of morality or sort of authenticity as well as ethics, right? And for Sidney, creative poetry is akin, मतलब पास है, akin to religion. Religion के बहुत करीब है. So this is also poetry has its धर्म जो बोलते हैं ना, एक कवि और कविता है उसके जो धर्म होता है. तो this is also very close to religion, for both guide and achieve their purpose by stirring the emotion of the reader. Okay, so obviously this line is very important. Why symbolism is blended with truth? Because delighting every sense and faculty of the whole being. That means you are actually understanding the whole being through symbols. You are understanding the whole being. When you are understanding the whole being, you are understanding the truth. And the truth is represented through, किस चीज से represented होता है? Symbol. Okay. So let us move on to the next question. The new classical critic, Joseph Addison, believed that the aim of literary criticism is not to dissect the writer of genius, but to look at what occurs in the interaction of literature and his audience. Okay, so that should be the correct answer. I'm not literally moving on to a few. This is not very important as a question, but please understand. Also read the option number 2 because it somehow connects Dryden and Pope, who are very close to new classical era, but who are the part of restoration period, right? So why option number 1? Because the aim of the literary critic in that new classical time, particularly atheist addition, is not to dissect the writer of genius, because new classicalism against dates back to, or somehow against traces back, Plato. And Plato has not focused upon the writer, because writer, according to Plato, a writer or obviously a poet would rather do mimesis. So writer's genius is not the part, but to look at what occurs in the interactions of literature and its audiences. So the very organic procedures. Somehow this has been developed from the drama, because you must have looked the neoclassical drama series. So you need to understand also these things, the neoclassical poetry, and neoclassical drama, right? So you need to obviously pay hits to or focus on this. Next question. According to the Russian formalist critic Mikhail Bakhtin, so don't pronounce that way, obviously. Sometimes we just do pronounce, but obviously this can never be the right pronunciation. So Mikhail Bakhtin, so you can understand the year. So who is a modern critic, who is a formalist? Okay, and obviously from Russia. So Russian, who was from Moscow school later. Was also part of that way Prague, influence of Prague school. So what should be the correct one? The first, the truth of the polyphonic novel is an active creation in the consciousness of the reader, allowing genuine surprises even to the creator of the work himself. So इतना कुछ समझने के पहले ये समझ लो कि polyphonic novel is basically an idea of bhakti, जहाँ पे बहुत सारा voices रहता है, multiple voices play an important role, right? So that is the reason कि polyphonic novel having polyphonic novel being an idea of Bakhtin, who has extensively studied on Dostoevsky. Okay, so one book of Bakhtin is like a problem in Dostoevsky's novel Problem. So that is particularly very influential as a book for the formalist criticism. Number two, polyphonic novels. So you can understand this is about polyphony. So polyphonic novels have a carnival sense of the world, a sense of careful deliberation where voices can be heard each in their own turn, only obliquely influencing their hearers. Right? Now, obviously, carnival. So another important concept given by Bakhtin is carnival scale or carnival. So what is this? This is something a very important scenario, important space where multiple voices obviously contribute, but there is no center voice, no prime voice. Okay, even in a carnival that you also see sometimes people wearing masks and different sort of dresses. That means no particular culture is dominating or no particular voices are dominating voice. Let us see the option number 3, the polyphonic nature of the novel implies that there are many truths and that each character speaks and thinks his or her own truth. And number 4, whatever meaning the language of the text possesses resides in the polyphony of the text itself, which is nevertheless ever and inevitably tempered by the intention of the individual reader. So you have already seen the correct answer should be number 3. Why now not number 2? Because for these portion only obliquely influencing their hearers, voices are not there to influence the hearers, rather it is a very democratization, or I would say it is short of a very anarchy that would not influence, rather that would create a phenomenon. Why not 1? The truth of the polyphonic novel is an active creation of the consciousness. So it is not an active creation in the consciousness of the reader. It doesn't depend only on the reader. It depends on the voices in the text also. Okay, that matters how would you perceive. It is not a very linear consciousness that would help you perceive. Number 4, why it's not number 4? Because it's not the meaning of the language of the text you are actually understanding. This is more a Derridian discourse, obviously. The language, sign, play. Rather, the polyphonic nature of the novel implies that there are many truths. Okay, so not one single truth. So that is more an analytical realism, obviously, pops out from polyphonic novel and polyphonic voices, right? So obviously, you can see that there is no single truth, no authorial truth. Okay, there are multiple characters being indulged, incorporated, and no, the authorship is not being the agency there. Obviously, these characters being automatic, these characters being organic, who are actually taken from the society, somehow reflects the different layers or status of the societies, right? So let us move on to question number 5. In his Of Grammatology. Okay, so Of Grammatology, who has written? Jack Derrida. Please remember the year, remember the book, because it's very important. What he is asserting, writing is directly related to what Saussure believed to be the basic element of language, called difference, right? So you need to understand the concept of, not only the concept of difference in terms of Saussurean idea or aspect of language. According to Saussure, language is basically arbitrary. Okay. There are so many things obviously you have to understand. I can understand कि समय बहुत कम है. We have to prepare hard, and even if you have prepared, you really need to attend the mock test. You need to prepare sort of questions like this. Only the previous year question papers, that won't be enough. Okay. सो क्या होता है एचसीयू में बहुत सारा क्वेश्चन पेपर है, क्योंकि एमसीक्यू फॉर्म में एचसीयू में बहुत पहले से एग्जाम हो रहा था, लेकिन जेएनयू में जो एनटीए का फॉर्म है लास्ट 2 साल से ऐसे एग्जाम हो रहा है. सो what you can make out of these 2 years of question papers, except if you don't prepare these kinds of questions, right? So why this number one should be the answer? Because the language is arbitrary and every word synchronically means, what is synchronic? Synchronic means at one time you are considering the phenomena of multiple spaces. The phenomena of language in this case in multiple spaces are being considered, so they are basically relational, and it depends upon difference. Okay, difference. Why? Because it is not black. Why? Because it is not, it is black because it is not white. That is the thing, right? So there is an interesting concept called difference. Obviously the difference is a French word that way, and Derrida has sort of derived, Derrida has talked about it. Difference to difference. Okay, the silence of E that way actually refers to the very unstructuredness, quote unquote, in language, or the relations of the materiality of language. That is a very difficult concept you need to understand. By materiality, I am simply referring to the objects that we can captivate through language. For instance, if we say tree, okay, so a tree, the image of the tree varies somehow from the image of a small plant, maybe, right? So that is the reason it depends upon your cultural context, your topography, your political aspects. All these things matters when you are actually looking at languages of various kinds from the synchronic aspect. So that is the reason Derrida has depended upon Saussurean notion of language, but still Derrida has sort of um, like moved away from Saussurean notion of the linguistic structure. Okay, so that is one important reason. Let us move on to the next question, that is on Freud. You can understand the difficulty level of the question, or maybe the trick, or I would say the conceptual aspect of these kinds of questions, right? Not the direct one. Very. So for the direct questions, obviously I'll bring another sets, the previous years, and obviously a few sets. But look at the difficult types of questions. Okay, first जान लो यार, जो हर्ष रियलिटी है इसको पहचान लो, ठीक है? कोई नहीं, क्योंकि हर्ष रियलिटी जानने के बाद 50% लोग अगर छोड़ देते, बाकी 50% बचे रहते, और वो बाकी 50% में से क्या होता है, सोचो कि 5% का सिलेक्शन होता है, लेकिन उस 5% उन लोगों का सिलेक्शन होता है इस 50% में जो लोग सीरियस रहते, डिलीजेंट रहते, और जो स्ट्रेटेजी करते हैं. मतलब यू रियली नीड टू हैव अ स्ट्रेटेजी. ओके, go for the mock test, right? Study properly. Okay, so I'll try to bring up a few sessions, few topics, obviously soon, that I'll try to bring, so that you can understand, or you can know at least okay, what to cover and how to cover. Okay, so let us look at the question. कि question क्या है? The psychoanalytic critic Sigmund Freud, his proponents based believed that, क्या believe करते हैं? Okay, the hidden meanings of a story can never be unlocked. A text is a writer's dreams undisguised. Artistic creation plunges the artist deep into a state of neurosis, and a literary text must be analyzed like a dream. So this should be the option number 4. Okay. So the interpretations of dreams in 1900 written by Freud, that actually refers to these basic postulation that a literary text must be analyzed like a dream. The way a dream is seen, is found to be edited. It's sort of a manifestation of subconscious. So somehow a literary text is also a manifestation of the subconscious. But Freud and his proponents believe that the subconscious is not the very individualized part. It is somehow an instrumental proponent that also collects, or that also collectively um, like collaborate, or connect different psyches. So from there you can certainly have come up with the term that collective psyche. So the collective psyche is nothing but the manifestations of collective subconscious. So a literary text is not an individualized that way. It's not an individual creation, but obviously it's a manifestation of the subconscious. So that's the reason obviously it should be analyzed like a dream. Okay. Why not number two? Because it has a close proximity that a text is a writer's dream undisguised. Whenever it is already manifested, then it is not undisguised. It is, I mean, it is undisguised. You think okay, it is manifested, that is the reason it is undisguised. But it is still disguised. That is the reason it is subconscious. Because you never know what the subconscious is. Whatever you actually read, you read in a coded form. So that is still in a very disguised manner. And it's not a writer's dream, first of all. Okay, because the idea of the authorship is still being omitted through the psychoanalytic criticism when you are saying collective psyche. Right? So the subconscious is not the author's property. It is a collective psyche. Okay, question number 7. In a deconstructionist reading of a text, what should be the correct answer? What is deconstructionist reading? The deconstructionist reading has been given by Derrida, the idea obviously, sort of. And then obviously you can look at Paul Damon. Okay, so the French school, particularly École de Paris, the very celebrated philosophical school, which is very much connected with the modern and postmodern, post-structural literary theory. So, deconstruction reading of a text क्या बोलते हैं? मतलब deconstruction reading of a text क्या होता है? Okay, so it is number one, the meaning of a text depends on those close interaction of the text, the reader, and the social and cultural elements. जो मैंने पहले ही कहा कि language arbitrary है, and that depends upon the readers' socio-cultural backgrounds, the readers' different codes, and about these different codes, obviously, Rolla Barthes. So Rolla Barthes is an important person who has talked about different codes. These codes are associated with the reader's background. That means cultural code, social code, semi-code. There are 5-7 types of codes I think have been used by Rolla Barthes while he was analyzing the short story called Saracen. It was written by Balzac, a 19th century realistic short story been chosen to understand different types of codes. But obviously, you cannot structure the codes. Okay, so the meaning of a text depends upon the close interaction of the text. So according to Derrida, everything is there in the text. The text provides you the context. You don't need to understand the context of the author. What you don't need to understand? You need to understand the author's context. No. Woke up, when he was born or she was born, where he or she used to belong to, what was the politics of his time. No, but reading is itself a very live phenomenon, a performative phenomenon. So you need to depend upon the reader's socio-cultural elements, the reader's understanding. The reader's understanding creates the text. There are, I would like to provide another information that would rather be helpful for you, that according to even the Rolla Barthes, obviously they're sort of discussing two type of text, two types. So one is readable, that is also called legible, okay, in principle, and another one is scriptable. Okay, so the scriptable text actually are the very literary text they're looking at or they're looking forward to. Readable texts are like journal types of reading, or maybe sort of very documents. Okay, but scriptable is a creative writing. When you are talking about a creative writing, it depends upon the reader's perspective, reader's background, how the reader is decoding or deconstructing the language of the text. Through the deconstruction process of the language of the text, it actually shows the reader's background, reader's different types of codes associated with the readers. And while doing that, through the commentary, through the process, another text is automatically being created. Okay, that is scriptable. That means during your reading of any creative writing, you are also writing. That is the idea. Okay, so please clarify your concept, do read. Okay, in EXAMVAT MA English entrance preparation, you have all the notes properly structured, everything written, and things are given properly. So it is your choice if you would like to join a course. It's your choice if you need to prepare a material. But please, that is my request to you guys. Please be structured. Don't be unstructured the way Derrida has suggested. Please be structured. Please prepare your material properly. It's not an UPSC exam that you need to prepare a very, you need to go for a rote learning or sometimes a very descriptive notes. Okay, so you need to simply prepare strategically a few questions, few important questions, and also a few, short notes. I would suggest short articles you can refer to. Okay, short PDFs you can refer to. A few important books you can refer to for your preparation. Okay, so that nothing can be left out because the cutoff will not be low at this time. Cutoff will always go higher. Okay, so that is the reason I'm asking you to be. I'm not at all scaring you. I'm just simply asking you guys to be meticulous, to be well structured and preparable. Let us move on to question number 8. देख लेते हैं question number 8 में क्या है, ठीक है? Which of the following is not based a concern with contemporary Afro-American criticism? That is also important. If you know a little bit about Afro-American literature, aesthetics, and criticism, you can easily answer this question. The answer would be number 4. Discovering signs of black art in modern American white art. So it is not about discovering signs of black art. That is the reason the not has to be followed, which is not a concern. Black art को discover करना नहीं है because this is already their part. It's not even black art separately. It may be Afro-American art because black is the racial terminology given by the white. So आपको अगर बोलते हैं कोई you are a dog, so obviously you'll start treating yourself as a dog. No. So historically, the white people have tagged the African, obviously Afro-American, as black. So obviously you cannot tag your art from your aesthetics, your cultural resistance as black art. Okay. So this cannot be the answer. So number 1, reading race into all American literature, because you need to simply make people aware of the racial history, racial discrimination, significance of slavery as past historical events and its present day implications, and social, political, economic, ideological, literary oppressions, because racial oppression historically is connected with this kind of operations like political, social, economic, ideological, and literary operations. Every sort of operations that you have seen in the option number 3, so are connected with racial oppression. So that is the reason this should also be a right propagation. But yeah, number 4, no, it's not right. Let's move on to question number 9. The American critic John Ransom, you can see the year obviously, would. So first let me inform you one important thing, that Ransom was part of new criticism. That is an important part of your syllabus, whatever entrance exam you go for. Obviously you can expect a question from new criticism, and there are many scholars, many professional academicians who have worked as new critics. They are like I.A. Richards, John Ransom, right? Wimsatt, many, Woodsley. So what should be the correct answer? Okay. First, let us read the correct answer. Consider the ethical approach of the new humanism and Marxism as false and find fault with the teaching of literature in universities by literary historians and scholars. So, literary history and scholarship has been discarded by the new criticism because they have focused on text. When you are focusing on the text, you are not focusing on the historicity or the context of the text being produced, first of all. Although the new historicism refers to something else about historicity. But let us understand the conventional history that actually refers to the context of the author or the text or the production of the text, right? You don't need to pay heeds to the literary history or literary historical scholarship. You need to pay heed to the text only. You need to understand, you need to go for the close reading. Close reading was also part of new criticism. Okay, although later someone has given an idea called distant reading. Okay, so please try to find who is that person who gave that idea of distant reading. Okay, I'll not tell you guys. So that is the homework. Okay, who has given the idea of distant reading? Okay, fine. Let us come back to the question. Consider the ethical approach. So the ethical approach in humanism uh, and Marxism as false. So the ethical approach in new humanism and Marxism as false. So you need to understand the cultural approach, the cultural ethics, or maybe the societal ethics that way. Not that would not be the part of new humanism or Marxism. Okay, not the class structure that would rather contextualize the text. Okay, rather the text would contextualize the text. The text should be the only key things you need to look at. Okay, different sort of elements. So you are actually looking at the aesthetic part basically. So that is the reason you are going close to a sort of new Aristotelianism, right? So you're looking at the plot, you are looking at the different literary tropes, different literary elements, right? So you're closely reading the text, you're looking at the aesthetics part of the text, not the class consciousness, not the ethical approach even. You can look at the cultural codes through the aesthetics that would rather be connected with the society. Sounds difficult a little bit because for a few who couldn't make it possible, the reading I'm talking about, but it is fine. You still have time. You can still do it. If you would like to, if you have that passion, obviously, to crack such universities, go for it. Dare to do that. 50% भी पढ़ना अगर हो जाता है तो उसके बेस पे चलो. कुछ क्वेश्चन शायद मतलब ऐसे होते हैं ना, गेस में भी लग जाता है, लेकिन 50% तो श्योर करो ताकि थोड़ा एक्सपेक्टेशन बना के रख सकते हो आप. ओके, so let us move on to the last question for now. So which of the following statements as regards the structuralist critic Roma Jakobson, so and obviously and the American new critics, so they are somehow connected at a point, but Roma Jakobson is also part of formalist trend. Okay, and they are of the same time. Formalism is basically a Russian subject that way, although they cannot simply possess it or somehow claim for it. But yeah, the formalist school has somehow influenced the Prague school. Okay, that is the structuralist school. For instance, Saussure is coming from the Prague school. Okay, so what should be the correct answer? Let me tell this because we are already running out of time. Cannot make a larger video. Okay, so for that thing, you simply have to join a course maybe, or maybe you need to कुछ तो खुद से भी करना पड़ता है, ठीक है. पर हाँ, एक चीज, I'll keep coming with a few questions like this, and obviously आप लोगों को अवॉइड करके जाऊंगा कि हाँ पढ़ो, सही से पढ़ो, ये सब क्वेश्चन को करना सीखो, एंड ऑब्वियसली best wishes from my end. Obviously the journey that is starting particularly today, the very extensive rigorous journey हम लोगों के बीच, लेकिन obviously that will be successful. So I'll regularly come with sort of questions, and yeah, for the basic study, for the for a brief structured preparations, I would suggest you can obviously start preparing yourself that way, or you can obviously join such a course that will provide you this kind of preparations. Obviously ऐसा वैसा कुछ नहीं कि गए और बस कुछ 2-4 चीज जान ली और आ गए और हो जाएगा JNU या फिर EFLU या फिर HCU. It will not be possible, sorry. Okay, so let us work hard together, and obviously let us work smart also, right? So what should be the correct answer? The correct answer should be number 3. So Jakobson welcomed the contribution of science to the work of literary studies, while the new critics were trying to defend humanistic values against the spread of scientific professionalism. Okay, for the last question, I'll not go for an elaborate explanation. You guys, it is your task. Please read about formalism, formalist approach, new criticism, okay, and structuralism. Please do this and try to solve these kinds of questions, okay? And yeah, one thing I would like to share, I would like to share about the information with you guys, that yeah, there are mock tests that you can join on EXAMVAT. And please, if you like the session, please, you can just like, share and subscribe EXAMVAT. I'll keep coming with such questions like this. मैं आऊंगा ये सब questions लेके, so don't worry about it. And you can obviously go for the mock test. You can join for the new batch that is going to start next month, the beginning of the next month. So you'll have a preparation, you'll have all these kinds of notes on everything, so that these questions will seem to be easier for you guys. Okay. And yeah, if there is any other organization who are providing, so you can also join there. It is not anything, not an obligation, I would say. वहां पे ज्वाइन करो, जो अच्छा सिखा रहा है, जो तुमको प्रिपेयर करवा रहा है, और ऑब्वियसली तुम भी मिलके प्रिपेयर कर रहे हो उन लोगों के साथ. सो वर्क हार्ड, वर्क स्मार्ट, एंड बेस्ट विशेस फ्रॉम माय एंड. Prepare well and crack any university, whatever you would like to. Fine. So with that question, bye for today. See you soon. Okay. And have a great time.